All right. Good morning, everybody. We are going to continue with our math lessons today with Chapter 12, Lesson 6. Before I go into that, on your activity that we did yesterday, there was a shape that we hadn't gone over, and I didn't catch that, but that was a triangular prism, and a lot of you did get that right. With the help of your parents, thank you a lot for helping them. If you put a prism, that was fine too, because it technically is. But let's go ahead and move on with Chapter 12, Lesson 6. Relate shapes and solids. So what we're going to do is, well, I'll talk about that later. All right, let's look at the problem of the day. What is the total number of faces and vertices on three-dimensional shapes shown below? So go ahead and count how many faces each of them have, add them up, and how many vertices there are. Go ahead and take a quick second, pause the video, do what you need to do to come up with an answer for how many faces and vertices. All right, you should have had 12 faces and 12 vertices because each, the cube and the rectangular prism, have 6 faces and they both have 8 vertices. All right, let's look at these. Number 1 and number 2, go ahead and look at the cube. Go over how many faces, edges, and vertices have, and number 2, the cylinder, same thing. All right, for a cube, you got 1 face, back face is 2, top, bottoms 3 and 4, and the 2 sides are 5 and 6. Edges 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Vertices, well, that should be 8. And let's go ahead and look at our cylinder. There are only 2 faces, 0 edges, and 0 vertices. Hard to move the mouse around and count all the edges. Sorry about that. All right, go ahead and look at a sphere and a pyramid for how many faces, edges, and vertices. Go ahead and take a second. For the sphere, there are 0 faces, edges, or vertices. And then the pyramid, you have 5 faces. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have the bottom. A lot of times, a pyramid looks like it only has 4 faces because it's sitting on its 5th face. There's 8 edges, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 5 vertices or points. Let's practice. Look at the rectangular prism. How many faces does a rectangular prism have? If you have a cereal box, you can look at a cereal box, shoe box, any kind of thing that's in the shape, an ottoman shaped rectangular prism, you should have had 6 faces counted. All right, let's go ahead and get going on today. What is the relationship between a square and a cube? We know a square is 2-dimensional and a cube is 3-dimensional, but what is the relationship between them? Oh, all right. So the relationship between a square and a cube is squares make the faces of the cube. So when I would make a cube, I would use squares. And I can tape them, glue them, do whatever I can to make a cube. So I take, again, a cube has how many faces? 6. So I would need to take 6 squares and tape them together on the edges to make a cube. So let's look at this one. So we are going to look at 3-dimensional shapes, and we're going to look at the 2-dimensional shapes that would make the faces. So for a rectangular prism, a pyramid, and a cube. So let's go ahead and draw lines to match the 3-dimensional shapes to the 2-dimensional shapes. So again, it's going to take a couple. So for my rectangular prism, I'm going to need a rectangle for these faces. I'm also going to need a square for the 2 side faces. For my pyramid, for the base, I'm going to use a square. And for the other faces, to get to the 1 point or the 1 vertices at the top vertex, I'm going to use triangles. And for my cube, I will only use squares. All right, we don't have to do this one. So they're just going to show you an example of if they were to have a problem describing the faces of three-dimensional shape. So for example, it's a shape with 5 sides, 4 faces are triangles, 1 face is a square. So you would draw the faces and then answer what shape are they. So here I would have 4 triangles and a square. When those put together to make 3D shape, it is a pyramid. I'm gonna go ahead and go into the guided practice. All right, so the faces of three-dimensional shape are two-dimensional shapes. So a cube has 6 equal faces. The faces are squares. So to make a cube, I would need all 6 squares. All right, now let's look at the guided practice real quick. Circle the faces that would make the shape. I know I assigned this to you, but I want to go over especially number 2. So what faces would I use to make a rectangular prism? I got this long shape here, so I would say I'm probably going to need a rectangle. And then for the top and the bottom faces, it looks like I'm going to need some squares. Now, number 2, how would I make a cylinder? Well, I know my top and my bottom face are circles, so I definitely need a circle. But how do I make this part? We'll use a square or a rectangle. I would use a rectangle. I can take a piece of paper. Let me see if I have one. Take a quick break here. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. So, rectangle, piece of paper. To make the cylinder, I would just roll it up. So then I have a tube. This would make the tube part of my cylinder. Then I need a circle to cover this side and a circle face to cover this side to make it closed 3D shape. This is just open, so a rectangle. Now if I took a square, it'd be harder to make it completely round or be really skinny. So the easiest shape is a rectangle. Just leave that on. So the guided practice is circle the faces that make the shape of a pyramid. Yeah, 4 triangles and a square. Actually, you're going to use all 4 triangles in that square. All right, so today on Seesaw, you're going to have 2 math worksheet pages. We're not going to do the brain builders today. You're going to have my homework, which is 2. Also, we're going over main idea. So for the main idea, read each paragraph, and you can record it and send it to me if you'd like. Read each paragraph and then circle A, B, or C on what is the main idea of each paragraph. But before I assign those, I know that we heard Ohio schools are closed for the rest of the year, which is pretty sad. So we will, on Monday, I will post a Zoom conference where I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to be there to monitor. I'll be muted, but it'll be a Zoom conference for you and your friends to get on and see each other if you haven't Zoomed or saw each other out and about. So I will just host a Zoom conference for you and your friends to see each other and kind of get to talk. I know that we will be going back to school soon. I will be going back to the school soon with a schedule of when you guys can come and get your things and stuff like that. So when that is announced to me, it'll probably be announced to you when you guys can come or schedule to come and get your things out of your cubbies and your desks and take those home for the summer. And at that time, you can bring back the papers for me, the packets that were sent home at the beginning of all this, which is, it's kind of sad, but it'll give us, a few minutes to say goodbye. We will still be doing some learning online, but it won't be as much. I'm going to hold back a little bit. We're maybe going to change some things up. I have to have a Zoom conference with Ms. Brooks and Mr. Eklund on Monday to discuss where we're going to go from there. So, well, guys, thanks for coming, checking out today's math lesson.